This happened in the summer of 2021 during a solo road trip across the southwestern U.S. I was between Vegas and Reno, and I'd gotten bored of the usual highway routes. I wanted something off the beaten path, something quieter. My GP say some off-brand, offline map app I downloaded for areas with no service suggested a detour. A road that curved through a desolate part of Nevada, avoiding the long stretches of I-95. I followed it. That road had no name, just a bent metal sign that said, "Restricted turn back." I assumed it was just leftover military signage or something old, forgotten. So I kept going. The pavement turned gravel, then dirt, but the GPS insisted I was still on track. After about 30 minutes, I realized I hadn't seen another car, not a house, not even power lines, just desert, rocks, and the occasional gutted-out shed or metal frame that looked like it hadn't been touched since the Cold War. That's when I noticed the hum. It was subtle at first, almost like a low engine somewhere in the distance, but it never changed, constant, no matter how far I drove. Then the GPS glitched, the screen froze on a dot. My location, no roads, no labels, just a red pin labeled Grid 33. Never seen that before. I tried refreshing the app. My phone turned black, then rebooted on its own. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no map. I pulled over, trying not to freak out. I figured I must have hit some weird dead zone. But when I looked up, something caught my eye. About 100 yards off the road, barely visible, was a structure. Concrete, slab-like, low to the ground. No windows. Just one large black metal door built into the hillside, and cameras. Not modern ones, old, rusted, box-shaped surveillance cams. Still moving, tracking, the kind that don't blink. There were no signs, no fences, just silence and that hum a little louder now. I got back in the car and turned around, except there wasn't a road behind me anymore. I swear to God I'd been on a straight path. No turns, no forks, but now the road that brought me there was gone. Just desert. I started driving in the direction I thought I came from. My wheels kicked up dust. The suspension shook violently over dried out ground, and the hum started rising. Not like a machine. Not electrical, like breathing. I stopped again, got out. Everything was dead silent. No wind, no insects, just a weight in the air, like the desert was holding its breath. And then I saw the footprints, leading from my car, circling it. Bare feet, human. I hadn't moved. I'd been in the car the whole time. That's when the black SUV pulled up. No markings, no plates, tinted windows. The back window rolled down a few inches. A voice came out, calm, too calm. "You need to turn around now." I couldn't see a face, just the glint of something metallic in the shadows inside, maybe a badge, maybe a gun. I tried to ask what was going on, where the road was, if I'd trespassed on something, but the voice cut me off. There was no road. You were never here. Then the SUV backed away, silently. It didn't even kick up dust, just vanished over the hill. I followed the direction it came from, and like that suddenly the road reappeared. Pavement, yellow lines, mile markers, as if it had always been there. When I got to the nearest gas station an hour later, I asked the cashier if they'd ever heard of Grid 33. He stared at me for a long time, then said, "That's not something locals talk about." I asked what it was. All he said was, "Just be glad you didn't knock on the door." To this day, I've never found that road again. Not on Google Maps, not on satellite view, not even in Reddit rabbit holes. But every once in a while, my phone flashes a notification that shouldn't be there. Just one word: grid. I was driving cross-country from Ohio to Oregon for a new job, no real timeline. Just me, my car, and a couple playlists to keep me company through the Midwest. Somewhere in Nebraska, my GPS started glitching. The blue arrow spun in place, and the screen read "searching for location" for over an hour. I didn't panic. I figured I'd gone through a signal dead zone. Happens out there. The sun was starting to dip, and I hadn't passed a motel or gas station in a while. That's when I saw the sign, "Welcome to Renwood Est, 1841. I hadn't heard of it. The name sounded like something from a children's book, but the town was there, just off the 2-lane road. It looked normal, quiet, one main street. A diner, a post office, an old church, houses tucked into tree-lined back roads. I pulled into the Renwood Inn. It was small, maybe 6 rooms, and a man in his 60s handed me a real metal key. Not a card, said he didn't believe in those things. I asked if there was any place nearby to eat. He pointed to the diner. "You're in luck," he said. "It's meatloaf night." That should have been my first red flag. Everyone in the diner turned to look at me when I walked in. Not glance stare, like I'd wandered into a town meeting I wasn't invited to. A waitress with bright red lipstick and a fixed smile led me to a booth and poured me water without a word. The food was already on the table before I ordered, and the plate was hot. Like they were expecting me. Back at the motel, I tried Googling Renwood. Nothing. Not a single result. No Wikipedia page, no maps, no reviews. But the creepiest part? When I tried to pull up my GPS again, it worked. Only it didn't show me in Renwood. It showed me in the middle of a blank field. Coordinates. No town. No buildings, no roads, just a blinking dot. That night I couldn't sleep. Every so often I'd hear crunching gravel outside. Not footsteps, wheels. Like someone was circling the motel. Around 3:12 the phone in my room rang. Old school rotary kind. I let it ring. It rang 32 times, then stopped. No one else's phone rang. Just mine. The next morning I went to check out, but the front desk was empty. No sign of the man from last night. So I just left the key on the counter and got in my car. As I drove out, I passed a "Welcome to Renwood" sign again. But this time, on the other side, there was a second sign, one I hadn't noticed before. "Thank you for visiting. Population 2. I blinked. Looked again. The number changed. Population 1. When I looked in the rearview mirror, the road behind me was gone. Just cornfields, no town, no motel, just open land. Like it had never been there. It took me another day and a half to reach the interstate. When I finally hit a real city, I stopped at a gas station and asked the clerk if he knew of Renwood. He paused, looked up, then said, "That's an old ghost story, man. My grandpa used to talk about it. Said people used to show up in Renwood but couldn't ever prove it existed. Place vanished in the 80s. Some say it was bought out. Others say it never really existed at all. He laughed and handed me my receipt. But when I looked down, printed in faded ink, was a message I hadn't noticed. You left too early. I moved to the suburbs to feel safe. After a chaotic few years in the city, I wanted calm, lawns, silence, streetlights, and neighbors that waved but didn't talk too much. I found the perfect little cul-de-sac in Connecticut, dead quiet, mostly retirees. My realtor called it predictable in a good way, and it was. At first, I didn't notice anything strange until about a week after moving in. I was in the living room unpacking boxes one night, music on low, windows open. I glanced at the clock. 10:16 p.m. Then, like a switch had been flipped, every house on the street went dark at the exact same time. Porch lights, bedroom lamps, even the motion sensor lights faded out like they were sensed, all except mine. I thought maybe it was a coincidence, but it happened again the next night. 10:17 p.m., exactly darkness. I watched through the blinds. My whole street swallowed by shadow, like someone had cut the power line. Except it wasn't a power outage, it was intentional. The third night, I decided to leave my porch light on, just to see what would happen. The next morning, there was a letter nailed to my door. Not taped, nailed, old paper, blocky typewriter font. No return address. Lights out means stay in. This is your only warning. I walked down the street that morning and asked one of the neighbors, a quiet older guy named Ron, if he saw anyone outside last night. He just looked at me and said, "You're new here, just follow the rules." I pressed a little more. Asked him why everyone turned off their lights. He hesitated, then said something I'll never forget. If they think the houses are empty, they keep walking. If they see light, they come closer. I asked who they were. Ron didn't answer. That night I killed the lights early. 10:15 p.m., just to be safe. I sat in the dark living room, watching through the window. At 10:19 p.m., I saw movement at the end of the street. A figure, then another, and another. They walked slowly, one after the other, like a funeral procession. No flashlights, no sound, no shoes. Their heads jerked every few steps, like they were listening, or sniffing. They passed house after house without stopping. But when they reached mine, one of them stopped, its head tilted toward my window. I ducked back, heart pounding. I hadn't made a sound. I peeked out again, just barely. It was smiling, mouth too wide, teeth like something that had never eaten food but wanted to try. Then it kept walking. The next morning, no one mentioned it. Not Ron, not the mailman, not the couple jogging past my driveway. I tried researching the town, the neighborhood, anything that would explain what I saw. But here's the thing. The town doesn't exist online. Google Maps shows my house, but not the neighborhood name, not the school district. And when I checked my own address on a property site, it said, "No residents listed. Plot inactive since 1981. I don't know where I am, but I've never left the lights on again. And I never ever look out the window after 10:17, because now I know they weren't warning me. They were protecting me from what's still walking."